Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. We're doing another remote recording today. We've got an interesting discussion. Have you ever looked at a product or bought something and thought, why does it cost what it costs? And ever wonder what goes into something? There's more than just the materials that are in an item, the raw bits and pieces. You've got design costs, engineering costs, marketing costs, patenting costs, shipping costs, warehousing costs, and all kinds of other things such as employee benefits and all that kind of stuff. I've got a friend coming on here today. His name's John Schwend, owner of Hatpoint Target. And Hatpoint Target, which I've got one in my hand here I put together, is something that we've been traveling around the country with for years. I've got a stack of them in the trailer, and it's a really cool, ingenious piece. We'll talk about it a little bit, but we'll also talk about some of John's experience as an engineer and what it takes to bring an idea to market, as well as things like patents and sales and marketing and all that kind of jazz. So welcome, Mr. Schwend, out on the West Coast. It's early there right now, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks, Mickey. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, I appreciate
Fun to
you
dive into
taking
this
the
stuff.
time. This is, I was thinking about some of the stuff that I figured was interesting. And your background, you're an engineer.
Yeah, yeah.
What kind?
Background is tool. I started in the tool making industry, building in plastic injection molds, and then made my way into the engineering world through that knowledge.
You spent years in the automotive space, right? Making all kinds of bits and pieces for cars.
Yeah, some of that was automotive, and then sporting goods companies like Kershaw or Crimson Trace. Those are some other companies, but yeah, so a lot of automotive, a lot of sporting good type stuff.
I didn't know you worked for Crimson Trace. They're in like Portland area.
They are, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and I don't know if they still are, but I know that they started out as just an inventor, a guy that invented the product, and then took it to a larger scale. And we were one of the original suppliers that worked with them to help them develop the product. And I think they've been bought out by a bigger company now. But
Hmm.
yeah, real success, fun project to be part of.
So, like in that situation, somebody had an idea, but they couldn't make all the bits and pieces themselves. So they came to you and said, how can we get this widget or this part that I need?
Exactly. So they come to us, they have a basic design. And then what we do is we look at that design and say, how can we build tooling for it and make it injection moldable? So that's where we came into the fray, because their expertise was, the gun, how that grip fits up to the gun. They don't know anything about injection molding. So we just help them through that process, have tooling built for it, and then bring that into production.
I see. It's you hear people say something I hear. I I've tuned into since I was a kid. You're sitting with your buddies and they say they ought to make this or they ought to make that, and I always think, well, who's they? Who's they? Is there like a group somewhere in the world of the theys that bring things to market or that invent things? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it really is like in that case, it's just a guy like you or I that has a love for guns, and he's got an idea. And somewhere in his background, he had some other experiences with something else that kind of played into the putting a laser onto a hand grip above the hand, and and so he just started sketching it out and. Then he took it to the next step and made some prototypes. And this is probably before 3D, so a lot of this stuff was being done on CNC machining parts. And then he gets that to a certain point, and then he goes out, gets a patent on the product, so it's protected. And this process can take years to go through. He's probably was 2 years into just getting through that initial design and then getting a patent, and then now he's ready to go out and figure out how he's going to manufacture this thing. So that's kind of what it looks
You,
like in a nutshell, quickly.
you, you proudly stamped on your box. Let's see, where's it? Where's it? I know it's on here somewhere. Looking at the stuff upside
Yeah,
down.
you
Where's it? Oh, right there. So good. It's patent. Why be proud of that?
well, it's one of those things. It gives you some protection, and then you went through the process of getting the thing patented. You went out there and looked and said, "Hey, is there anything else out there like that?" And so that's it's a good thing in that it's patented. It's unique compared to what other products are out there, and so yeah, I'd say that's kind of in a nutshell.
I've been told by people that having a patent, something to the effect of it's only as good as your ability to pay lawyers to defend it.
Yeah, you're right. I've had that same conversation with my patent attorney. It does. If somebody's got way deep pockets, he lawyers make a living off of a patent attorney makes a living. At least mine does, where he has somebody that has an idea. He says, "How can I get around this patent?" So his whole job is he's an engineer by trade that went to law school. So he says, "I just figure out a way." It's not, there's ways around it. So yeah, it's gonna protect you for somebody that doesn't have deep pockets. But if somebody really wants to knock off your product, they've got deep pockets, they're gonna do it, you know.
Seems
So
really frustrating, like the whole idea of going through that process, doing the research, paying the money, paying the fees to the federal government, and the whole point is that there's this document that says this is John's. John made this. But then
right.
Bob can
Yeah,
come up and say, I have more money, F John, I'm gonna
yeah,
just take it.
right. Yeah, that's the frustrating part. And then there's another part of it too. Our product's all made in the USA, and so it can also be knocked off overseas. And so that's another issue. And I've seen that happen with my product, but not knowing what they didn't know, it was kind of a failure of what they did and never got any traction in the marketplace. It was the wrong type of plastic. The design was not sized right for what it needed to use, and so that's the other side too. Yeah, patent is going to protect you a little bit, but at the end of the day, if somebody really wants to knock it off that has deep pockets, you're kind of shit out of luck.
Let's talk a little bit, just so that as we talk about this, I thought that using your product was um, a good way to illustrate some of the things we're talking about. So these are a target stand for going out to the range and shooting. You've got three different choices for widths of putting 1x2s, either wood or you sell and make a product that's plastic that can actually take hits and it doesn't break or shatter. What's the dimensions? Like 12 inches, 18, 24, something like that, maybe?
That's correct. Yeah, it kind of
Okay.
fits all those different marks of standard size targets that are out there on the market.
What do they weigh?
They
What
are
do you
about
say?
4 pounds.
Very light, and that was why I was interested in using these, because we've got the trailer full of stuff, and I mean, I've driven all the way to you on the West Coast, so if I have 500 pounds of extra gear, that's a lot of fuel and wear and tear on the truck. Uh, the thing I hear from people, oh, they're too light, they could blow over, and you've put 5 points in here to put basically a landscape spike through. You can drop a sandbag on it, but you brought up a point a few times, like if it's super windy, whatever it is either blowing over or blowing. If you've got cardboard on here, it's going to blow away. Talk about how you arrived at this design.
Yeah, so back to the weight thing, I've tested both of the metal stands against plastic stands. If you're out in the range, you know this as well as anybody. If you got a wind that's strong, it's going to blow either one over. So really, the dynamics there for a target stand. Uh, what was your question again, Mickey? As far as the
Like how did you get to this this design of all the, I mean, there's a myriad of products out there. You see a lot of them that are made of angle steel or square stock. There's just a million different ways of doing this. Like, how did you get to this?
Yeah. So really, it kind of came from years of just, shooting at targets. And so I've always, there's different widths of targets. And I was more into the rifle, like shooting a 22 or shooting a rifle. And so I had these ideas of what the target widths are. And so from that, that just drove, I want something that I can have that's all in one piece that will fit a wide range of different targets, from exit target to a small 8-inch wide target. So it was just how you configure that. You can see that on the box, the picture on the box, how the different configurations that show how targets can be set up on there. One of my favorite targets setups is actually what you're showing there is on the right. I'd be shooting 22s with friends, and we'd set up those targets on the right here. Now we've got 6 targets on one side, so that was just one way, and now you're not running downrange, switching out targets all the time. So that was just that was kind of the thought process of the how I came up with the design. Another thing that in the design that was really critical is, like, a lot of times I'd go to the range and I'd go and I'd see a 1x2 stuck in a metal stand, and the thing would flop around like a it wouldn't hold the 1x2 sturdy, and that bugged the hell out of me. And so if you look at that, you'll see that there's some integrated clips, and you're showing them there. And so those integrated clips are what they do is they put pressure on that 1x2. There's some at the top and some at the bottom. And that's a big deal. People don't realize how handy that is, because now it keeps your 1x2 secured. If you're, moving the field of fire, or you set it up at the shooting bench and you go down range to set it up, you can do all this stuff before you get down range, and you don't have a 1x2, a couple of 1x2s that are flopping around. So real easy to manipulate and move around on the field of
Yeah,
fire.
just on that note, since we're talking about the product, I've used these countless hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours on the range, and it's friction fit. I've not yet found a commercial 1x2 that doesn't slide right in, and you just put your foot on it and slides back out, but it's very sturdy. It's sturdy enough that we can grab both sticks and move the whole thing around if it's not nailed down to the ground. Something we're talking about, like, I don't have any feedback to change this, but people will look at something and they say, hey, you ought to make this change, such as XYZ. What's that look like for a product like this? Like, dollar wise, if I was gonna say, hey, could you change this little feature? And to me, it's like, it's not a big deal. Just when you make the next ones, just change this little feature. What's
Right.
that look like for the actual manufacturing process?
Yeah, that's a huge deal. It's all dependent upon the injection mold and what's doable in plastics. Because you build an injection mold, there's 70 grand worth of tooling to build that product right there. And so when you go into that, there's water lines that cool this mold. There's ejector pins that eject that part out of the mold. So when you start adding features, you have to be aware of all that stuff, where that's at in that injection mold. And so that's where it can get really difficult to make changes, because of how the mold is fixed and what's required in that design. So there's some things you just have to look at the design and see what change you want to make to see if it's doable. Sometimes you can get away with some things in that, but most of the time it's pretty tough to iterate a mold for a different change to make it happen. So then what you're looking at is a rebuild on the tooling, and that
Is the
obviously.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it gets very expensive very quick when you have to start rebuilding injection molds.
Is
Um,
the 70 grand, is that a design too, or just that's you taking a drawing or a file and giving it to a mold maker?
Yeah, it's the 70 grand is building the injection mold, the tooling, the injection mold tooling. The designs, you're looking at 10, 15 grand up front to get that into a state of 3D where the mold maker can actually use that design to build an injection mold. So it's
What's it like? What's that look like time wise? Weeks, months, days?
well, the design to finalize the design on this product, we're probably looking about a year to finalize it. So what I did on this is I designed it up in 3D, made it so it's you can injection mold it and tool it. And then I after the design was done, I went and had the 3D printing um, done. So I actually 3D printed that whole target stand, and then now I have a not in the manufactured material, but I have a 3D print of it. Now I can go out and show it to people, test it, and do some preliminary testing on it, and get some feedback on it. So that's about that time frame, and then you've got about 6 weeks to 8 weeks to build the injection mold at the tool maker, and now you've go into injection molding the first off in testing. So that's going to take you another 8 weeks to go through that process. So it's a pretty lengthy process from start to finish. And you haven't even went out and sold your first product yet, out there.
So if
So
there was a problem with that mold, not because of the builder, but if something in your design was not what you wanted and you made that first test batch of the real plastic product and it was not right, you just burned 70 grand.
that's right. Yeah, and that's why you really rely on your design up front, your experience there, as well as the 3D printing of it. So it's like I tell anybody and clients that I've worked with in the past, let's 3D print it to make sure it's going to function the way you want it to. So like a Crimson Trace grip, they 3D print that design after you've got it finalized for injection molding. They mold it up to a handgun and they go through the pace and say, yeah, this is work. No, this isn't going to work. So they'll make some refinements, do another 3D printing of it, put it on the gun. They'll get to a point, okay, we feel very confident now to build an injection mold. So that's really, especially as an inventor, coming up and I was, had the experience, you want to make sure that you don't get it into tooling because at that point it's hard to overcome. It's
Mm.
expensive if you have to rebuild a mold or rework a mold to make it work because you had some failure you didn't find out upstream in that 3D design and that 3D printing process.
So you, before you even sell a single part, you're 6 figures into this deal.
Yep, easily. Yep.
So if somebody was to say, let's make a quick change, it's the cost to do that. You have to sit and weigh out, well, what am I going to get out of this? Am I going to be able to sell it for twice as much money or sell twice as many of them? You got to cost all that stuff out.
That's correct. Yeah, you got to look at it and just say, hey, does it make sense or not? So,
You make these all in the US. Is that like the screws and everything?
everything's made in the US. Yep.
How so we do that with gunfighter oil products. All of our products that we sell are US sourced. I don't manufacture anything like this. What does that look like uh, from like a sourcing cost perspective? Like, I'm sure you'd make more money if you had these made overseas and shipped into containers over here. What's all that look like?
Yeah, well, you're saying what it looks like to get it manufactured.
Here versus overseas? Like, what's all of the economics of that
Yeah,
and the logistics? Like, just to add to my point, I know sometimes it's very hard for me to find certain things, like the labels for our bottles of oil and grease are
hmm,
all U.S. made labels, and there's only a couple companies that make all that stuff. So if they don't have what I need in stock, I have to wait, where I could go to 50 suppliers that are making the stuff in China and have it in 2 minutes.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to have something built overseas, you're looking at 40 to 50% savings on the manufacturing costs over US.
Wow.
And it's pretty significant. And that's one of the things that we're really proud of is that, I've got like over 10 vendors that I you know pay for different things, from the labels to the boxes to the injection molding to the screws that goes into it. And so that's what we're really, pretty proud of it. It's like it really shows just one little product like ours, just how many different um, suppliers that you actually have to lean on to get the products that you need to make the product. And so, yeah, it's I've always been ahead of it. I stay ahead of all the different supplies that I need to make sure that I'm not gonna not be able to produce the product. And so you're carrying a lot of inventory up front, and you're always staying ahead of what you potentially think those orders are going to be by the past history of selling the product. So there's a lot of logistics involved. Um,
How many different suppliers do you think you have to work with to make this single product?
yeah, it's over 10. I know it's over 10. I mean, like I say, between the boxes and the injection molding company and the screws, and the flyers that go in the boxes. What else is there? The resin supplier. There's a supplier that makes the raw resin. And so you just start looking at the different things that it on that product.
The
it
label.
Yeah, label. There's a box label. Um, there's just it adds up pretty quick.
Why is it important to you that you make it in the US? I think that I think most of us like to see made in the USA, right? But I don't know if folks truly appreciate, some do, what that means. Like, what's that mean to you to do that?
Well, I've been through the whole gamut of manufacturing. So I seen a $10 million company that I worked for, because all the product or all the customers were outsourcing overseas because they could get it done cheaper. Turned that $10 million company into a $2 million company. And then I saw a $2 million company actually started a, a business, a manufacturing plant overseas. And I saw the impact of what it did to all the people, the manufacturer, the production workers, to the management of that company, what it did. So it really hits my heart hard when I see that, because I thought, boy, this country is lost when you take a $10 million company, 2 million, and the only way they can see to survive is to take their product overseas or their business overseas. And so that's one side of what it means to me, and the other side of it is I'm pro America, build America. I write a lot of checks just for this one product and to different suppliers, and I know that that's all businesses staying here in the United States. And so I look at one little product like Hatpoint Target, and I think, that's one product, but times that by thousands of products, it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. And so I'm excited to see what's going on right now with manufacturing, that hopefully we can get more of it coming back here. So it means a lot to me, Mick, to manufacture in the US.
I know it does. I know it does, because when you talk about that, you could make way more money and not have to mess around. You could just have these things show up, box ready to go. I know tons of companies in this space, tons. And it pisses me off because these guys, they're selling this idea. Like, now the new catchphrase is designed in America. Well,
All
who gives
right.
a shit? Who gives a shit? Like that. I mean, that's cool. So great. You sat at the computer in Detroit or Austin or wherever, but then you I get the economics of it, but like nothing changes until people change it. When I was a kid, I remember, like, I'm in the Chicago area, Chicago, Milwaukee, which is just like 60 miles. It seemed like every other father was a tool and die maker or
Yeah.
worked in injection molding, because there's, businesses all over this region supporting those industries. And now I'll run into those guys, friends of mine's fathers who are now in their 70s and 80s, and they, all talk. Well, what happened to your business, or where's the business at? Oh man, it was like in 98 or 2000. They shut down. All those jobs went overseas. All those jobs went overseas. And it's like, that's all because people wanted to make more money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough deal. We're out here on the West Coast. I'm kind of stuck. I didn't do a lot of traveling at the beginning of my career, but I went to a town. I don't know if it's little or big, but Ashtabula, Ohio. I don't know if you know where that's at. It probably can't be too far
Dude,
from you.
I teach a class in Ashtabula every year. There, I have two friends there. It's right on the lake, and there is a wonderful steakhouse there. It's called, just for those listening, if you get there, a husband and wife own it. It's called, it'll pop in my head. I believe it's called Renner's Meat Market, I think is what it's called, but I'll look it up and share it in the show notes. But we do a class there every year in Ashtabula, and
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
good buddy that owns a range there.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like now, but when I went there, it was pretty shocking coming from the West Coast to go in there. It looked like the area that I was in. It was on a Freightliner project, and it was like a ghost town. There was like factories that had been closed down, grass growing
Hmm.
up, a lot of storefronts that were boarded up.
Hmm.
It just kind of blew me away. I just, hadn't seen that. I was experiencing it for the first time out here with what I explained earlier about a company I was working for going overseas because they had no choice. But it was just, yeah, it's the impact is just unbelievable on manufacturing. It's, but
I don't
anyways,
blame any business owner for wanting to make more money. I mean, we all want to make more money. And I don't think that it's like, I don't think it's a citizen's responsibility. When we start to borderline on socialism and communism, there's like a line where you go from supporting your community to wanting, big unions and things like that are trying to basically like dominate space. You're talking about Ashtabula, which is a beautiful Amish community around there. Uh, in like 2008, 2009, I was involved in the energy efficiency sector, and I was up in, oh, I can't think of the town, Manistee, Michigan, up on the Lake Michigan uh, coast, about halfway up the lakefront, and it used to all be these automotive companies. We make the valves for GM's 350 engine. We make the we make the heads. We cast the frickin' rear differential cover or whatever. And they were all like you're talking about. We're up there, and like you just drive through town after town after town of windows busted out, and everything was gone. Mexico, China, etc. And like, where are these people working? Where do they live? What do they do? How do they keep
right.
the electric on? It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy for sure. Yeah, people go into different industries. That's what they did. A lot of talented people that I worked with, there was no more work, so they went in and did something else. Some went into construction, electrical. What was going on. Just the manufacturing was just gutted out. And I'm the same way. I don't blame the owners of this company I work for. They're good people. They were just faced with the dynamics of what was going on, and
Mm.
they were just basically told, if you want to exist with us, you're going to have to start a plan overseas. And I get it. They're just trying to survive. It's just the dynamics. It's the rules that are in place. So, but I just saw the effects of it, and that's why I like say I'm proud of what we do here at Hatpoint Target. We're building stuff here in the United States, and it's a small thing, but it's a part of a good thing because it's providing jobs for people.
I don't think it's that small. You guys sell at Bass Pro,
Bass Pro, yeah. Yeah, we
Shields.
got yeah, Bass Pro, Shields, little there's a chain out here on the West Coast, Mart, Sportsman's Warehouse has it. Those are the bigger places that have it in. Then I've got across a number of gun stores out here in the West. And so, yeah. Then we
Did I
also
ever
sell
show
it
you?
online.
I ever send you a picture of how I stack these in my trailer?
You did, yeah. That's pretty cool.
There is. We should make a design for people to build one, and I'm sure you could come up with a better way than my carpenter brain. But I like them because, like a range, man, you can stack 30 of these up. I can pick 30 of them up and put them in the trailer by myself, and it's other bases that would be impossible. Um, what's like the idea for this? You think every range should have them? You think every kid should have one in the backyard for plinking? Like, what's the end goal?
Yeah,
Hat point in every home.
that's what I really, it's really, this has really changed the market that I thought existed for the product has really changed to a different segment. So really where the product has succeeded so far is in the firearms training world or on the range. So that's if somebody's going out and you know training with a pistol. That's where it's really that's where I've seen it really take a hold. My goal is when I first started out, I thought it was going to be a guy like me that likes to go out and sight in a rifle, take my handgun out to the woods, and we've got a lot of country here that we can go up into and shoot up in public land. Take my handguns up there and shoot. That's where I kind of thought that world was going to live in, because you go around here and you get some of these guys that'll go up there and they'll hang a target on a tree and they'll start driving rounds in it till the tree falls
Sure.
over, and there's all kinds of problems with that, and just the general view of that from the community that doesn't shoot, that's not good. So that's where I was kind of hoping, this product, and it has made its way into those markets. And I think that's what's kind of happened with it being in these larger retails. There's a lot of those type of shooters that see that product, that they use it in that environment instead of hanging that target on a tree. And I've been there myself as a young guy, going out and you grab your rifle, you grab your ammo, you grab a target, and you go out, and then you're looking, well, where in hell am I going to put this target up where I can shoot at it, and so that's kind of where I hope it catches on, is that, yeah, I think everybody that goes out with their kids and shoots 22s, or you know goes out and planks with a handgun, that this is a great product to use uh, for that. It just you've thought all your other gear through, but you haven't thought your target stand gear to that point. And so that's where I'm hoping it catches on with people. Guys like you in your environment, you guys are organized. You know what you need. You got to get stuff set up out there, and I think it fits great in that market because it's quick organization. It has benefits of being lightweight, not beating your other gear up. So I just hope it catches on more with the more of the recreational shooter.
Hmm.
So
I've helped some friends with their kids with BB guns, just teaching like safe gun handling, like trying to help. It's something near and dear to me. Being I've got six little brothers, kids of my own, bunches of nephews, uh, grandkid. It it's these are nice tools. Put this out on the range and you start teaching them, like, we're not just shooting twigs off trees. Even with like a little red rider, I'll set these up, put a target on it. Okay, this is John's target, this is Mick's target, this is Bob's target. We're not shooting the sticks, we're shooting the target. Staple a piece of
right,
cardboard up, and then have them go down and like affix the targets and take them apart and put them back together. Um, and they're light enough that the kids can move them around, was one of the points I was making. but I got some friends out in Pennsylvania. They actually own the steel target, TA targets, and I have brought some of those for their kids to shoot slingshots and BB guns at and stuff like that because they can drag it out of the garage and go put it up against the berm and shoot their little Red Ryder.
Right.
So that's
Yeah,
cool. Cool.
that's good.
How does how does the this plastic handle getting struck by a bullet? And of course, we don't want it to get struck by a bullet. It's only happened a few times for us, usually if we're proned out and we've got the cardboard target really low, like doing some zeroing. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's one of the things that it's the type of polymer that it is. It doesn't just blow apart on impact, so it can take some abuse. If you look on our website, you'll see some different types of rounds that go through it and what it does, and it's very durable. I mean, I've been out in the gun range where I've seen somebody shoot into a metal stand, and and it goes through the metal and then you can't get the stick out of the
Mm,
stand, and it's they're
sure.
back in the corner trying to dig it out with a Leatherman tool, and so yeah, it's very durable. If you start shooting, it'll take a number of rounds and still be functional. It's not going to be, just be indestructible, but it definitely. I've shot a 300 Win Mag through it. I've shot, 45s through it to 9 mils. It really handles it pretty well. And sometimes it'll happen. I've shot where those little clips that we talked about earlier. I'll shoot through one of those where those are basically gone, but it still functions because you have other clips in there. So it's really durable. And that, I was working on a project. How this all came out is I went to a USPSA uh, event and was shooting at that, and they had a bunch of PVC uh, target stands, and it was almost comical because the guy came out in a pickup to set it up, and it looked like he had like a just a heap full of these PVC stands because they're real all glued together, bulky. And then there are also in previous matches they'd been shot, so he was out there duct taping some of that stuff on there. So it was really kind of a mess. And at about the same time, I was working with a material for uh, a Chevy product through a second supplier, not direct for Chevy, but they provided a unit that went on to, it was GM OnStar. It was that goes on the, like for their GM OnStar on top of the Chevy products. And so I says, man, this looks like, and so I took a part that we were molded, and I took it and I shot through it. I said, man, this would make good material for a target or a target stand. And that's kind of how it came up, how I narrowed down on that particular type of plastic. But
Those
anyways,
target bases make me laugh as a lifelong tradesman. I think about the things. It's like you hang out with an electrician, you go see something that the electrician built in his garage, I don't know, shelving or whatever, and it's made of conduit, right? Or something because it's what he's got. And a sheet metal guy has got some duct work bent up, right? And a carpenter's got wood and a plumber. It's just because it's the stuff they've got. And I've
yeah,
seen those. The PVC is heavy. PVC is not impact. If you hit, it shatters in a million pieces
right,
if you shoot a bullet through it. But I've seen that stuff on ranges, and like the stuff people come up with to hold up targets is sometimes so I'm going to say over engineered, but that's the wrong word. It's just like, what were you thinking? Like it's
right,
like it's like if I was going to make some food instead of using the pot that I have in the cupboard, I'm going to like, I don't know, uh, go find a flower pot and try to cook in it or something. Like it's just not meant
right.
for that.
Well, that's funny you say that because that was my aha moment because I'd see all that stuff and then having that plastic background, I said, I can make a better mousetrap here. I know I can. And so that was, I'd seen all that stuff out there in the range, and there was no, there's no structure to it. It's just like you said, it was just a mix mash of stuff that they had out there. And then, watch them set it up and trying to duct tape stuff together. And I thought, man, there's got to be a way to do this better.
And the
So
sticks are going like this in the breeze because it's a square stick and a round
yeah,
pipe. And yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I had a friend that I went to high school with. He was a state cop here in Oregon. Anyway, so when I came up with the idea, I started talking to him about it, and he says that could probably work. He says, John, he says, but he says, make sure you make it black, because if you make it black, that's cops will buy anything that's the color black. And so,
That's
anyways, I
funny.
always kind of chuckled that when he said that, he says, if you make it black, they'll buy it. So, anyways,
That's funny. That that point of you seeing something, we've all met people throughout our lives that I got this idea. I got this idea. I've got a brother that's been working on a snow shovel for years, and one of my uncles will say to him, "Would you just build that damn thing and quit talking about it?" Because he's
yeah,
talked about it and talked about it, and he's got a lot of other stuff going on. But um, how do you get from that point of like this is a cool idea? Where's the jumping off point? Hey, I'm going to take real money out of my bank account and start
yeah.
building this thing. Where
Yeah, that's funny you say that. I probably did everything backwards. It's like I had the whole manufacturing side down, so I knew that. So it wasn't that big of a leap for me. And but I didn't know the marketing side at all. And that's the side that most people miss, is how am I going to sell this? Where am I going to sell it? And so I kind of did it all, just by hard work and calling. And I've been to every gun, no, what the heck you call them, gun show on the West Coast. And went back to NRA show with it, and so yeah, it's one of those things, is you just got to go out there and really look at what's out there and understand where you can sell it out and what you can make it for. And before you make that leap of faith, those are the things that you really got to figure out. And so that's where it was at for me. I'd got enough feedback that I felt like it was uh, it was a product that I think would sell. And so yeah, and it's still at that point, it's still a leap of faith. You don't know whether it's going to make it or not. It's like it's a scary thing. I mean, you go out there and invest that kind of money. If it doesn't sell, I mean, I saw it. That was one of my goals. As I saw a lot of people that I worked with that were just private people that had an idea that didn't make it. They'd invest. I know one gal that I worked with. She had a product that she built the tooling for. She molded a bunch of product, had it uh, was going to go on to one of those cable shows, QVC, I think it was called, or something like that. It was going to have a spot, and hell of a marketing person. And it didn't sell, didn't go. And so here she is. She's stuck with, a garage, and every room in her house is full of products she couldn't sell. So there's a lot of horror stories to these things, but it's you just got to do your homework and hope that your homework is good. So
what's that look like? What kind of homework? I people often will say this idea of like if you build it, they will come, like the movie what was that? That was Field of Dreams, right?
yeah,
If I just make this thing that's so amazing, people are going to want to have it. People will just talk about it. And I'm sure stuff like that exists, right? Like an amazing restaurant. We had a friend here just closed her restaurant after 25 years that never marketed it. And for years, you couldn't get a seat. She never had a website, had a Facebook page that was like rarely updated, but people just talked about the restaurant. So you could go in there and wait an hour to just go to the bar to get a drink, let alone sit. So, like, what homework are you actually doing? What's that look
it,
like?
I would say just the selling side of it. How are you going to sell the product? Have that have that dialed in. Know exactly how you're going to sell the product. You got to understand where you're going to sell the product at, and how are you going to market that product. And then you need to put some dollars behind it. And that, as a small investor, or as a small inventor, that's a tough nut. That's one thing that is expensive to do. I mean, and it's like, do you sell enough of them to warrant all that? So that's why I
Mm,
say you got to do your homework. I I'm only talking about the homework that I struggled with the most was that whole marketing side, know where to sell it at. I've kind of done it the old school, like more like what you're explaining with that restaurant is that it's a good product. It's been word of mouth, and me basically uh, getting enough traction and results to be able to approach bigger supply or bigger retailers to sell the product. And just so it's like know the how you're going to sell the product. I guess that's where I would really uh, spend my time is um, do that research, do that homework in that area, because that's where the product's gonna is going to grow or not, or is going to fail or succeed.
mm-hmm.
And and I say that from that side because I understand the manufacturing side so well, because that's my core competency. I understand manufacturing, so that side's easy for me. I know how to design, manufacture something, and what that looks like. Now, a lot of first time inventors, they don't understand that, and then they once they like the guy with the snow shovel, you start going and really putting some numbers behind what it's going to cost to make the snow shovel, and then what you can bring it to market for and sell and still make a buck. It probably doesn't make sense. So
Mm.
that's another part of the homework, I guess, is that you have to do understand what it's going to take to get the product to market from the manufacturing side, what your cost of goods sold, cost of goods sold are, and so understand that, to understand if there's even a margin there to bring it to market, because the there has, you are aware of that because you've got products, so you've got to understand what a manufacturer's cost is and what you can sell it to a retailer and what they sell it for MSRP. And is there enough pie in that equation to make sense or not? So, and that's where the challenge is.
Yeah, I think it's easy to like get the romantic idea about a thing. I love it, thus everybody will love it, and it's going to be great, and the cash register is going to get rung all day. And I have a friend that went to a huge trade show kind of a thing, and he had a couple ideas. He had a really good product, but he had some like marketing ideas. So he's like, I'm going to take and I'm going to make a special package for my product that I'm going to like tailor to this audience. In this situation, it was bikers. It was Sturgis Bike Week. So his product, he made like this commemorative, 40th anniversary Sturgis or whatever, thinking that people that were there, like a coffee mug at the Grand Canyon or whatever, are going to buy the
Right.
crap out of them. He didn't buy 100 of them or 1,000 of them. He figured, okay, 80,000 people attend this rally and people buy more than one. They might buy one for a friend. So I'm going to buy 160,000. And then I'm going to buy t-shirts. So he made like 20 SKUs of t-shirts, extra small, small, medium, large, blah, 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 in 3 colors, and literally took like a semi load of stuff out there and sold like 50 items out of
Yeah.
thousands of items. I remember him telling me this, and I'm like, what? Like, what are you, what? Like, why would
Right.
you, like, what are you thinking? Like, why didn't you just take the product you already have that's packaged and with your logo on it and
Right.
like sell it? Yeah, like, I thought it was insane. That was 8 or 10 years ago. You go to his factory and you still see this stuff piled
Yeah.
up. And it was basically burning $100,000.
Right. Yeah.
And
There's
if he
there's
hears this, I love you.
Yeah, though there's a lot of stories out there like that. I've seen, like I was explaining about the gal that went on QVC, she did the same thing. She had to have the inventory ready to go if it was really to sell. And so, yeah, you got to be real careful. It's like, I started out, you start out with smaller batches when you run, and and then you go out there and see if it sells or not. You don't, you just always be protecting yourself to get not too far ahead of the cart, and then once it starts selling, then you know what you got to start producing. And yeah, inventory will kill you, especially if
It's
you
an
can't sell it.
there's an interesting like kind of a juxtaposition like mindset there because like if you read like certain books on sales, self-help kind of stuff, you got to like go for it, man. Grab it by the horns. And if you're too timid and pulled back too far, the pack's going to blast past you. So there's like this, and then like our temperaments are completely different, right? I'm this
Right.
like loud, obnoxious guy, and you're kind of quiet and understated and thoughtful, and I'm like, throwing vulgarity out in every other word. So like we even like just take the same idea and you implement it and I implement it, it's going to
Right.
be a completely different animal just from just our temperaments. Did you have any mentors in the parts of the business that you didn't understand? Did you reach out to coworkers, buddies?
Yeah, well, I worked with a lot of people that did exactly what I did, and so I'd ask them a lot of questions, and experience a lot of things firsthand what they did of getting themselves, too far ahead of, extended too far when the product wasn't really viable yet. And so, yeah, I had some of that mentorship through that. And what you find out, a lot of times, and like you say, you read a book and it tells you to do this, it's like they're assuming that you have this huge marketing budget that you can go out and just hammer away at this. Everybody, when you spent and you invested as much as I did as a small guy to get something going, you've hung it out there as far as you want to hang it out there. And so to take another 100 grand and throw it into marketing, the payback on that takes quite a while. And so it's just, it's like, yeah, it's just, you just have to be, you know, aware and be smart and not get yourself, extended that far, and so yeah, all the mentorship in the world, sure, I had all that, and I couldn't ask for more. And I know some of the areas where I'm, weak at. And it's, but at the end of the day, it takes a lot of money to overcome some of those areas. So I've just kind of taken the approach is that, this product is going to word of mouth, minimal amount of marketing, and it's going to grow itself that way. And it has. It's taken longer. Maybe what I could have done in 3 years has taken me 8 years. I don't know. And if I would have put that money into it, but so I've just kind of taken it, the conservative approach, and that, like you probably nailed it. That's my MO. I'm conservative. I don't get myself too farly extended out there, and it's worked out to this point. So
Farming like the Amish in Ashtabula versus the commercial farmers of Southern Illinois, Central Illinois, with the
yeah,
eight-wheeled tractors dragging plows as wide as a
yeah,
freeway.
yeah. Wondering how they're going to make those payments on those things.
Well, that's the flip side, right? And that I think
Yeah,
is like the analogy. Like, yeah, look at we're farming thousands of acres, except you're buying $2 million, $3 million pieces of equipment that are burning thousands of dollars of diesel, and hell, a fuel or a lube change on one of those things is $1,000, and the one
right.
tire's thousands of dollars. And yeah, it's a it's an interesting. It kind of like, what life do I want? What do I was with a friend of mine the other day that's very successful, and in the big scheme of things, he's wealthy in the world, but he's not like, jets and things like that. But he's talking to a guy that is a money guy for some very big, wealthy dudes. And my friend makes good money, owns a lot of properties and stuff, but he doesn't owe anybody anything. And like, is works very hard to not have debt. So this guy is telling him, I have clients that make 10, 20, 30 times the money you make, but they would all love to be you because
Right.
they're carrying around millions of dollars in the red to
Oh,
keep the machine working.
right. Right. Yeah, no, that's yeah, I get that whole scenario there. It's probably comes from my background growing up on a dairy farm, small dairy farm, that you know, it was like you didn't have money to take the tractor to go get it fixed up at the implement. You got the wrenches out and figured out how to fix it. It's just that's probably been ingrained in me since I was a kid. So that's probably where it's at. And I like that road myself. It's like it's American, man. You know, work hard, don't get overextended too far. And at least it is for me. But
No, I like that. I think that we've lied to ourselves where my nephew Kanan that manages a lot of the day-to-day operations, college grad, was sharing an article he just read yesterday. Um, I believe it stated for the first time in history or in modern history here in the US, non college graduates are being hired at a faster pace than college grads because of the pay. And it's like, we're having to like rethink this thing that we've told ourselves. I have a friend that's a medical doctor that is leaving, and he's young, he's in his 40s, he's leaving the medical field to be a psychologist. So he still will be doing like, health and wellness stuff. But he's like, dude, I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars of student debt. Uh, and by the time I pay all the BS to do my job, taxes and licensing and insurances, he's like, I will make twice the money talking with people with mental health issues and not going through all of the BS. Like we've created a lie.
right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, I've seen it firsthand in manufacturing. It's like, as time went by, you start seeing people uh, that really don't have any skills, and it's like if they can't write a check for it to fix something or do something, they're kind of, they're in a world of hurt, whether it's working on their house to work on a car or, not everybody's programmed to do it that way, but it's like, yeah, I think there has to be a little reset here about what's going on in this country. It's like, I see it when I say in the manufacturing, you get these kids, they just don't have any skills. They've never had to wrench on something ever, and that wasn't ever even an option in their high school they went with. And now they're trying to be around mechanical stuff. It's pretty tough. And,
Mm.
yeah, there's got to be a rethinking of all this. And I think it's going to happen. I mean, it's just the logistics of it. It's like we need people that can produce and have the mindset, and they got to get that. When I was in high school, we had automotive, machine shop, woodworking. You had those options, and it was one of the best things that ever happened. I went into a machine shop class and took a machine shop class, and I learned a lot of stuff. I didn't even know what that was about. I knew how to work on stuff, so it kind of connected. Well, hell, that's how that stuff's made. I work on this stuff at home on the farm in a tractor. Well, how in the hell is it? How is it made? Well, I started seeing that side of it. I had no idea of it. So I got to believe it's the same thing for kids today. Is if they've taken all that out of their schools, they have no basis. Don't even know it's there. The teachers have obviously haven't been around it, and so you got to get that back because there's a lot of good paying jobs out there. Skilled trades are you can make some good money at it, and you don't carry all that debt for college. And I mean,
I
there's a
think it's
place for
coming back.
college. I'm not saying there's not a place for college, but it's like there's certainly a lot of college that's just mindless stuff that doesn't prepare kids for the real world. So,
Sure, sure. I think it's coming back. It was about the same time that Michigan story, 2008, 9, I presented to the Illinois Department of Education on bringing back trade programs to schools uh, because we were seeing a lack of people coming into the trades to apprentice. It was like forecasting, hey, 10, 20 years from now, there's not going to be anybody. And that's the case. I've got a lot of friends that are contractors, carpenters, plumbers, etc., and they can find nobody. Uh, the guys that are working are my and your age, and that's not
Hmm.
tenable, right? You're not going to be humping concrete forms down into a basement, at 70 years old that weigh 150 pounds a piece. And that's like the world we created. That works for somebody else. I'll go over here and do this, nice fingernail work, which somebody's got to do that stuff. I've got friends that are
Right.
dentists, doctors, lawyers. You need all that stuff, but somebody's got to go do man work too. Sorry, guys, man work.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No.
I like it. I appreciate you taking the time to talk. How does somebody find Hatpoint Target?
You can get on there, search hatpointtarget.com, and you can find us real easy. If you type that into a Google search, you'll find us pretty quick. There's ways to reach out through the website. And so, yeah, no, we're easily
If
found.
somebody owns a store, web-based store, can they become a dealer?
Yeah, they can. Yep. We can, they can reach out and we can get them retailer pricing and yeah, figure all that out. So,
Gun
yeah,
ranges too, I'm assuming you do.
yeah.
Do you do any freelance work? Like if somebody had some type of plastic product that they wanted to bring to market, do you do any mentorship or business development stuff on that?
Yeah, I haven't got involved with that so much. I've been asked, like my patent attorney, he sent some people to me, that somebody was a dentist that had some other products, and they want to put it in plastics. And I helped them a little bit, but I usually don't, I don't offer that as a service. It's, you can jump down into a rabbit hole that doesn't end at that point with some of this type of work. So yeah, I haven't, I don't do that per se, but
Staying focused on the targets and hunting. You're a big hunter. What's your hunting season look like this year? What do you guys?
I love to hunt. I'm going out to Wyoming to hunt elk and hunt antelope this year. So I'll be 2 weeks out at the end of this month, and so yeah, that's kind of my passion is hunting. So
You feed your family with wild game?
sure do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's yeah, got some deer, elk. Um, Hopefully antelope this year in the freezer. So yeah, no,
Awesome.
it's take care of it myself too. I butcher it all out and wife helps me and we package it up, put it in the freezer. So
That's great.
it's it's good stuff. Good
You
stuff.
know right where it came from. John, I ask people often as they come on the show, it doesn't have to be about your product. It can be about anything. Parting words. If the people that watch today, listen today, if they never meet you, never cross your path, what would you leave them with? Friend to friend, man to man, or man
You
to
know,
woman?
just keep your head up and do what's right and they buy American products. I don't know. That's you know, uh yeah, it's like, keep stay to the grind, it's don't give up. That's one of the things that I've learned in life, whether it's making a product, going to work every day, working with your family, don't give up. Keep keep the nose to the grindstone and it always pays off in the end. Some days it doesn't feel like it, but it's never done me wrong. It's like I apply that to everything I do, whether it's hunting. I mean, stay to the grind. Sometimes you just got to grind it out, and good things happen. So
I
if
like
they
it.
don't, yeah. So
Go ahead.
no. So anyways, no, I was done. I could go on, ramble on, but I'm going to stop.
That's a great song, by the way. Led Zeppelin. You guys that tuned in, I hope that you got something out of this. If you've got questions, comments, throw them in the comments section. Love to chat more about it. Uh, for me, it's important that we share these American made products. You've heard me talk about this stuff for years. We don't just uh, buy stuff or use stuff. because it's cheap or accessible. I want to support the businesses. And as John pointed out, I'm not just supporting John because it's this network. He's supporting all these other vendors. And then of course those people have vendors and they're employing people. So kind of how all this stuff is supposed to work. As always, be well. Don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them and go get yourself a Hatpoint Target.
Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.